Okay, picture this. Have you ever stared at a totally blank screen, finally forced yourself to write a whole page, only to read it back, realize it makes absolutely no sense, erase the entire thing, and start all over again? If you're an 8th grade student, I am willing to bet you've experienced this dreaded blank page syndrome. It's that endless, exhausting cycle of rewriting, and frankly, it's just incredibly frustrating. But what if I told you it doesn't have to be that way?
Welcome to today's Explainer. I'm your teacher, and today we're tackling a foundational skill that is going to completely change the way you approach your assignments. We're talking about planning a draft based on topic and purpose. You see, every single great piece of writing, whether it's a best-selling novel, a presidential speech, or your next history essay, absolutely must start with a solid plan. Today, we're going to learn exactly how to build one. Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll cover the power of planning, doing things in a fitting and orderly way, 3 questions to ask before you write, knowing your audience, and we'll wrap up with the Godly Learner philosophy. Let's get to it. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the power of planning, building a strong foundation.
So why do we even bother planning? Why not just start typing and see where our thoughts take us? Well, to understand why, we need to think like a master builder. Imagine constructing a house. You literally wouldn't dream of building the roof first, would you? Of course not. You wouldn't put up walls on bare dirt. You have to pour a strong, concrete foundation first. Planning is exactly like building that strong foundation. It makes everything else you do stronger. Without a plan, the structure of your writing is eventually just going to collapse under its own weight.
Let's look at what actually happens without a plan. Your writing quickly becomes messy. It's super hard for anyone to follow because you jump from one idea to another without any logical connection. And that leads directly to that endless cycle we just talked about. Writing, realizing it's confusing, erasing it, and trying all over again. It is a deeply frustrating and exhausting process that just drains all the fun out of learning and sharing your ideas. But look at the rewards when you do plan. It creates a clear roadmap. It gives your writing instant direction, ensuring you stay completely focused on your main idea. It helps you decide exactly what to include and, maybe just as importantly, what to leave out so your readers can actually understand you. And honestly, the best part? It's a massive time saver. You reach your final goals so much faster when you aren't constantly getting lost along the way. Moving right along to Section 2, a fitting and orderly way, God's design for our work. You know, developing this academic skill doesn't just make you a better student, it beautifully reflects a biblical worldview. 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 40 tells us, "But everything should be done in a fitting and orderly way." God himself values order. I mean, just look at the universe he created. It's perfectly ordered and intentional. Starting your essays and paragraphs with a thoughtful plan is a wonderful, practical way to honor his design in your own daily work. We aren't meant to live in chaos, and our writing shouldn't be chaotic either. All right, Section 3, 3 questions before you write. Think of this as your roadmap to success. Get your notes ready because we're getting to the core academic framework here. So the crucial point is you absolutely must ask yourself these 3 specific questions before you write a single word. Number 1, what am I writing about? Number 2, why am I writing? And number 3, who will read this? If you can answer these 3 things, your blank page syndrome is officially cured. Let's tackle that first question. What are you writing about? You need to choose a topic, obviously, but it has to be really clear and specific. Look at this comparison. If you say your topic is just sports, well, that's way too broad. You could write 10 huge books on sports and still not cover it all. But look at the narrow topic. How teamwork in basketball builds character. Boom. That is focused, it's meaningful, and suddenly you know exactly what kind of stories and evidence you need to gather. Next, we ask, why am I writing? Deciding your why is absolutely essential because your purpose directly shapes the tone and the content of your entire paper. Are you writing to inform someone of the facts? Are you trying to persuade them to agree with your side? Is your goal to entertain them with an awesome story? Or are you just trying to explain a complex process? You have to know your why. Notice how picking a specific purpose immediately hands you your arguments. Let's say your purpose is to persuade, and your topic is that students should have longer recess for better learning. I bet you'd agree with that one. If your goal is to persuade, you know you can't just list off fun recess games. You need to gather strong evidence, maybe some studies about how physical activity increases brain function, to actually convince your principal or teacher that you're right. Let's move to, and see how this builds into Section 4, knowing your audience, tailoring your message. So here's the final piece of our drafting puzzle. Question 3. who will read this? You've got to remember that your writing isn't just for you. You're trying to communicate an idea from inside your brain into someone else's. And understanding exactly who is reading your work dictates the words, the style, and the details you absolutely must use. Just look at the contrast here. If you're writing for a general adult audience, like your teacher or your parents, you can use advanced vocabulary and more complex sentences. But if you're writing that exact same message for an audience of younger kids, say a bunch of second graders, you have to adjust. You'd need to use simpler words, shorter sentences, and highly relatable examples to make sure they actually understand you. Knowing your audience ensures your message truly lands. Finally, Section 5, the Godly Learner Philosophy, Knowledge Guided by Wisdom. As we bring all these really practical skills together, I want us to shift our focus to the bigger picture of why we're even learning this in the first place. Here at HeroesMart Academy, we intertwine biblical morality with education. Why? Because simply being smart or simply being a capable writer just isn't enough. In fact, education without biblical morality can actually hurt. Knowledge and intelligence should help you make wise, God-honoring choices, rather than simply making you more capable of doing whatever you want. As you learn to write persuasively and clearly, you're gaining a really powerful tool, but that knowledge must always be guided by wisdom. And this brilliantly illustrates our core belief, found right in Romans chapter 8, verses 6 and 7. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Keeping our minds spiritually centered on God is what brings true life and peace. As you plan your essays and structure your paragraphs, we want you to pursue academic excellence, for sure, but while keeping your mind completely centered on God, truth, and righteous choices. All right, it's time to put these skills into practice. Here are your action items, your homework for today. First, I want you to write down a broad topic and narrow it down to a specific idea. Second, identify the exact purpose for a paragraph about your favorite food. Third, explain in your own words how your audience changes the way you write. Fourth, choose one topic and list 3 reasons why you chose it. And finally, describe why planning before writing is so helpful. Follow this structure and you're going to do great. So next time you stare down a writing assignment, you now have the exact tools to banish that blank page forever. You know how to build a strong foundation, how to honor God through orderly work, and how to define your topic, your purpose, and your audience. The only question left is this: will you choose to pursue academic excellence today while keeping your mind centered on God, truth, and wisdom? I know you can. Happy planning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.